All right, welcome back. Week 9 now of Check Number Sports Podcast. Dan, your co-host Matt and Zach. How are you guys doing this week?
Doing great. Other than the fact that UConn is clapping Villanova in women's basketball, but other than that, it's good. Pretty good.
Might be expected. Maybe a little bit.
We beat them in the regular season. It's all right.
Yeah. But we have a good episode today. A lot of basketball stuff, a lot of NBA, college basketball stuff. So you get into March Madness, a little bit of baseball stuff as they've come out with some things, and then a big breaking news in football today. But we can start in the NBA with a very good game that took place this past Sunday, which could be a preview for a possible playoff matchup. And that's Celtics-Nets. Boston Celtics against Matt's Nets. And Celtics took that one, 126-120.
Oh, man,
that game.
That one really hurt.
Only they had another elite scorer on their team. Only.
No, it's fine. If they had Ben Simmons on the court, they would have. They would not have been even close.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It would have. They needed defense. They needed Ben Simmons to lock up.
He honestly would have guarded Jason Tatum. So
exactly.
I kind of see.
If only they had James Harden on the team.
No, it's really not that. Also, Kyrie didn't have the best game. So
the Sixers are 4-0 when James Harden plays.
Kyrie was kind of silent until the fourth quarter, and he didn't turn it on.
Exactly, it wasn't
early enough.
He really didn't have the best game. Seth Curry also was kind of cold the entire game too. So it's all right. Basically everyone except for KD had a bad game. So
and Jason Tatum.
It was just an unfortunate.
So.
It was just very unfortunate. Everything aligned together. Jason Tatum had a 50 burger.
Now, what are they, 9th in the East? Wow, 9th. Who would have thought the Brooklyn Nets would be 9th?
They've been injured, all right. We know healthy that they are the best team in the NBA. Like, not even close.
Not without Harden anymore.
Yes, they are.
Nope.
They really are.
Not true.
Whatever.
Quick side note also from this week in basketball. Nikola Jokic had 46, 12, 11, 3 and 3 with 30 points in the fourth quarter. So me and Matt's MVP prediction got a little more support.
Definitely the MVP.
Game.
I wasn't like off the Jokic train. I just think Jokic is second for me. It's not like
I think that honestly, I thought before that game that Jokic was the MVP favorite, and it still wasn't even that close. But this game right now, you know what I'm saying? Just look. If you look at the analytics, it's like he's just by far the best player in the league right now. So, and right now, I underrated him at the beginning of the season. I didn't have him as a top 5 player. I had him at 6th, but now he could be a top 3 player in the league right now.
I think that's fair to say. 3. But we can move on now to college basketball stuff because it's champ week, conference tournament week in college basketball. So we went through, picked for 7 conferences, Power 5 conference, the Big East, and the American Athletic Conference. We picked a winner and a couple sleepers for each conference. So we can start with the American Conference. For me, there was really only 2 or maybe 3 options for the American Conference. I actually went with Memphis to win the American Conference.
I did too.
I was going to, but then my sleeper pick wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah, my sleeper here is Houston because, they've been a top 20 team all year. But the thing that really did it for me is Memphis is 10-1 in their last 11, I believe.
And they also beat Houston twice.
Convincingly beat Houston this past weekend.
That was a blowout.
They're playing really well. And Houston, to me, I don't really buy into Houston that much.
They don't really jump off the page.
Honestly.
And they lost.
I know they're banged up,
really
but
pieces.
Yeah, Marcus Sasser got hurt. A couple other guys I think got hurt. They're just
they're
a type of team that they're gonna be probably like a 5 seed in March Madness, and they could be a team that could be a possible 12-5 upset, I think, in the NCAA tournament, depending on who they play. So I had Memphis as the American winner.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, they beat Houston twice. Last game, which it was just not even close. and yeah, they've really been banged up a lot. So I don't know. I just haven't really been convinced by them that they're gonna like win. So I definitely put Memphis, especially with the momentum that they're on right now. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's kind of clear. Yeah, exactly.
We can move on to the Big East. This is an interesting one. It's basically a Power 5 conference with the way it's shaken out. And who do you guys have in the Big East?
I'll let you take this one first.
You guys know who I have.
I think me and Matt agree on this one.
I agree too.
Villanova. As much as you guys have been Villanova haters,
I haven't hated on Villanova.
Me neither. No. I'm just state the facts.
No, they beat Providence twice. I know they were close games, but like it was twice. All right, and
it's hard to beat a team 3 times though.
I get that, but they beat them both home and away, and it's just the Villanova Wildcats, they legitimately have a chance to be a Final Four team this year. Like no bias at all.
I think that's fair.
I do.
Like even so. At the beginning of the season, they were a top 4 team. I know they had a couple bad losses, but they're really starting to like find their ground again. And
I mean, they really haven't had like that bad of losses.
It's honestly, just that they lost to like some really good teams. And then maybe one upset here and there.
I have it here. I mean, they lost back-to-back games in December to Baylor and Creighton. And since then, they're 16-3. And exactly. they've lost twice to Marquette and then the one game to UConn.
My only worry is that like the elite teams they've played, they haven't really won any. Like they lost to UCLA, they lost to Purdue. Like the teams that are really competing for the chip, they haven't really like they've beaten the teams.
But they played all of them close.
I would. That's the only thing. I think that they all of those games have been pretty close, except for the Baylor game. The rest of the games where they played like top teams, they were close, like going down to like the final like 3 minutes.
And there is something to be said about beating teams that you're supposed to beat. I mean,
exactly.
They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They're in this situation for a reason.
Basically, every team. So, and I'm not really convinced by Providence at all.
Neither am I. They're kind of similar to Houston to me, a little bit.
Just in the fact that they are going to be like a decent seed in the tournament.
Probably be a 3 or 4.
Could very well see an upset for them, and not for Villanova.
My sleeper isn't even Providence for the Big East.
No, it's not.
It's not either.
It's not for mine either.
I have
UConn.
UConn.
I have UConn too.
I could see that. I put Marquette. But
that was my second one.
Really, the only reason is just because they've kept it close with a lot of teams. I mean, they beat Villanova twice.
Yeah,
twice. Once at the Finn, they haven't lost. Other than that, the Villanova hasn't lost in the Finn in like 3 years or something. So I mean, honestly, hey, give it up for Marquette, and they like barely lost to Creighton as well. So like honestly, that game is kind of a toss up for me.
The Big East is really good this year.
Yeah, I would put the Big East over the Pac-12, who we're going to talk about next. But I think the Big East is heating up, and there's probably 5. I mean, they're going to get a lot of bids in the tournament. Speaking of Marquette, I mean, they're probably going to be like a 7 seed, 7 or 8 seed. That's a dangerous 7 or 8 seed for a 1 or 2 seed to play in the second round come March Madness time. But we can move on to the Pac-12, which I think at this point is kind of overrated. To me, there's one team that stands out from the rest, and then there's like 3 or 4 teams that are in the running for a tournament bid, but none of them that really stand out. I mean, I had Arizona as my Pac-12 winner.
That one is kind of obvious.
I mean, I had 2 sleepers. UCLA was one. That was kind of they're the 2 seed, I think, and they've been a top 10, 15 team all year. Although they've been
really slipping up.
They've been falling.
They did beat USC, which is a good win, but not super.
But I also am not super convinced on USC either.
Yeah, and I put them as my pick, but like.
I didn't. Yeah. For me,
I had Oregon
I did
another
too.
Sleeper.
I took like the sleeper, I guess, really by definition, and like chose a team that like no one really expected. Oregon's like they're pretty good. They have very good players. They're gonna be in the tournament. So
I mean, most likely. I mean, after they've lost some games down the stretch that have kind of put them on possibly the outside looking in. So they kind of have to make a run, I think. Which I think just adds extra motivation to Oregon. I think they can beat a team like USC or UCLA and make a run to the championship.
Also, the state of the Pac-12, they'll like pretty easily win a game or two first because there's some really bad teams.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, you look at teams like Washington, who just convincingly beat Oregon, and some other teams that definitely could make trouble. I just don't think they can make trouble for Arizona because I'm a big believer in Arizona. Some people don't really believe in Arizona for some reason, but I'm a big believer in Arizona.
I used to not, but I mean they've just been looking so good. They don't have like a glaring weakness.
They don't. They really don't. They can defend, they can shoot, they can score. I mean, they play at a fast pace.
Yeah. I mean, and I know I said they've had a relatively easier schedule, but then again, like you said before, they have beaten the teams that they are supposed to beat. And I got to respect them for that. They've looked very, very good. So
I mean, that's what it comes down to a lot of time in college basketball. It's just beating the teams you're supposed to beat. If you can do that, yeah, you might lose to the top teams, but if you keep it close, you still got a shot. And I mean, Arizona, I think they had a bad loss to like Colorado like last week. But besides that, they've been
really other than that,
perfect,
they've had pretty convincing wins for basically almost all of their wins have been convincing. So I think this one is pretty clear that they're going to win.
Yeah. So we can move on to the Big 12, which I think is another conference that's pretty good. But there was really only two or three. There was three, I think.
Probably three, yeah.
Could have a shot at winning it. So I went with Kansas to win it. But I think Baylor's a close second.
Yeah, I picked Baylor. Like I know they don't really have like a true like offensive guy where like on offense they just completely take over the game. I get that, but they are just like one of the best defending teams in the country.
And they're the reigning national champs.
They're the reigning national champs, and they
lost a couple guys, but
at one point they were the number one team for the like 4 weeks in a row. And they did slip up, but they were really finding their ground again. So I'm a believer in Baylor.
For like Baylor, obviously Baylor and Kansas are the cream of the crop in the Big 12. But
I feel like I know what you're going to say here. Oh, you're going to say sleeper?
Oh, I was going to just say something on Kansas first, just real quick, and then I'll do my sleeper. When playing in Baylor, Kansas only lost by 10. Playing in Kansas, they won by almost 30. So I think they've proven that they can beat Baylor. They also probably have the Big 12 player in the year on their team. So yeah, and then my sleeper is Texas. They're 21-10. They again, I don't really think that like this is one of the conferences where there's probably not going to be a sleeper because Kansas and Baylor are so ahead of the pack. But if I had to choose one, I'd probably choose Texas.
Yeah, for me, I had Texas Tech because this is a team that I think doesn't get talked about enough. They've been up there top 15 this year. They beat Kansas and then took them to double overtime the next time they played Kansas, and they also swept Baylor. So Texas Tech, I think, doesn't get talked about enough. I see a lot of people that have them in their Final Four, and I think for good reason because they prove that they can beat good teams and they beat the team they're supposed to beat, and that's how it works. I think we're seeing that as a common theme is you can play good teams close, which they've done, and then beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. So I had Texas Tech maybe they aren't even a sleeper, but I think they definitely have a legitimate shot at winning the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah,
run
the only reason I didn't choose them because I didn't really consider them a sleeper.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Didn't either. They're already like one of the top teams in the country. Yeah. So
I could also see TCU making a run in the Big 12. They just beat Kansas and then I think played them pretty close the second time. So TCU, yeah, Texas definitely, like you said, can make a run. And you can never count out like West Virginia and Oklahoma, those kind of teams. But we can go to the Big 10, which I think is a very interesting conference.
This is probably my favorite conference tournament to look out.
This is kind of a toss-up to me between a bunch of different teams. And I feel like we're going to have the same sleeper.
We might. I don't know.
I don't think
we will, to be honest.
Well, sorry, we can start with the win. I
different.
had Purdue
Me
as
too.
my winner. Because it comes down to Jaden Ivey and Travion Williams. They're an experienced team. They can score. They can definitely, they can play defense. But they've beaten good teams. Illinois, to me, it's really just Kofi Coburn and, they have good guard play, but they rely a lot on Kofi Coburn. And I think Purdue can defend Kofi Coburn. I'm not sold on Iowa.
Me neither.
I think their main competition is Wisconsin.
Really, yeah.
Like
sure,
Johnny Davis is a
Johnny Davis just sprained his ankle.
He just got injured.
Which I probably would have picked Wisconsin, but with Johnny Davis' sprained ankle, a little uncertainty around him. That's why I went with Purdue.
And
me too.
Purdue has been up and down. Sorry.
No, yeah, that's fair. Purdue has been up and down, yeah. Although they did beat Villanova, sadly, unfortunately. But yeah, they just have a lot of depth to me. And especially
the best
especially with
the conference.
Exactly. And they have a really good center in Zach Edey or Ede, however you pronounce it. But having that is I think it's a little pretty clear for the Big Ten. But there's definitely a lot of good teams in that conference.
And a team that we haven't mentioned yet, who I had as my sleeper, is Michigan.
Maybe
you guys didn't have Michigan.
I didn't have Michigan.
I was thinking of Michigan, but I ultimately went a different way.
We kind of left this team for dead when we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Without their head coach, and while they haven't looked great without Juwan Howard, they're still in a position to make the NCAA tournament. And with one or two good wins here, they could definitely get in. And I think you just can't count them out. They just beat Ohio State, and I think they can make a run.
If we're talking about beating ranked teams, we need to talk about Rutgers.
Yeah.
They went on a run. What was it? 4 straight games.
They beat 4 in a row. Yeah.
They beat.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
They were the best team, like the number 1 ranked team in the country. They're 19-12. Their record's okay. They'll probably be a bubble team, but I could definitely see them making a run deep into the Big Ten tournament.
That's a pretty good point for Rutgers. For me, I put Ohio State. Maybe I'm just a little biased, but yeah, they are a bit top heavy considering it's just EJ Liddell and a bunch of other guys.
Well, they have the potential freshman of the year candidate in the Big Ten in Branham. So Ohio State's definitely solid.
They are. So I think it's kind of him, Liddell. And then, but that's kind of it. They rely a lot on those two, but yeah, that's kind of it. So that one was kind of
the only reason
for me.
I steered away from Ohio State because they lost to Nebraska at home. They just lost to Michigan.
They lost to Michigan. I do see that. That's true.
I don't know. I'm not super sold.
Yeah, it's kind of just with EJ Liddell for me, considering he's just one of the best players in the country.
And talking about Nebraska, they just beat Wisconsin, which I don't think it proved more, honestly, to me about Wisconsin than it did about Nebraska, because Nebraska was missing their best player in Bryce McGowan's, and they still beat them, and they were up for a majority of that game. So I think Wisconsin has been up and down. They do have Johnny Davis. They have a bunch of good guys around him. They have experienced guards, but we got to see with the health of Johnny Davis, and they've been up and down. So that's why I steered away from them for the winner. But they're definitely a solid team that can make a run in the tournament. But we can go. We got 2 conferences left. We can go to the SEC, which again, a very, very good conference that can get 7 or 8 teams in the tournament.
Absolutely stacked.
Very.
And to me, it was between 2 teams to win it. And it was tough to pick against Jabari Smith.
I chose Auburn too.
Yeah.
I did not choose Auburn, actually.
Oh.
It was tough to pick. It was tough to pick against Jabari Smith because I actually went with Kentucky. Because Auburn has kind of looked a little inconsistent down the stretch. Not that Kentucky hasn't, but I think this Kentucky team, they got better coaching. a little better guard play. And Oscar Tshiebwe is a walking double-double. He's a walking 20.
He's going to win Player of the Year.
So I think while it's hard to pick against Jabari Smith, it's also very hard to pick against Oscar Tshiebwe. So my sleeper was Auburn. I kind of went with just the runner-up, but Auburn would not surprise me if they won it and went to the Final Four this year. But I picked Kentucky to win that tournament.
Yeah, I picked Auburn again. I can't pick against Jabari Smith, and also when you just look at the bracket, they just have a cakewalk to the championship. So, and again, they've, as of recent, I know they've looked a little inconsistent, losing to, who did they lose to? It was some unranked team.
I think they lost to Arkansas.
Well, they lost to Florida. Right? They lost to Florida.
Yeah. But still, I couldn't.
And someone took them down to the wire. It was like Missouri or Mississippi State or something.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then, but yeah, I don't know. I really couldn't pick against him.
I was say there's definitely a couple sleepers in this conference though, because I think LSU is a sleeper, and Alabama.
I put Alabama.
I said LSU LSU. They just beat Alabama on Saturday.
Yeah,
they've beaten Tennessee. They've played a bunch of teams. They've played Arkansas.
Tennessee's also a sleeper as well. I mean, this conference is really good.
They've played TCU close. I know they're not great, but they've played Alabama very close when they lost. So I think that they're in the running to make a run.
No, yeah, fair enough. I picked LSU was my second, but I picked Alabama just because they were at one point they were a top 10 team. They were ranked 6th at one point, which is kind of crazy. But they beat some absolute powerhouses like Gonzaga. Houston's not like a powerhouse, but they're still a good team. They beat Baylor, and at the guard position they definitely have the talent to compete with the other guard duos with Javon Quinterly transferred from Villanova, sadly. But they also have Jaden Shackelford and Keon Ellis. So that's why I picked mainly just because of the guards. I picked Alabama as my sleeper.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But yeah, I mean Arkansas, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee.
This is a really good conference.
Texas A&M,
7 teams to the
yeah.
It's
they're what the ACC has been for the past couple of years.
Yes.
Which, talking about the ACC, it's been a down year. Yet I still think there's a bunch of good teams in the ACC. So for me though, I know Duke just lost, but I had to go with them.
You can't choose. You can't pick against.
I can't pick against Duke. You just no, not a chance.
Well, because what's going to happen is they're going to be pissed off that they just lost in Coach K's final home game, and they're going to come out. And I think they're going to put on a show in the ACC tournament. I think this team has a lot of holes, and I think they could be exposed in the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. But I just didn't see another team. I mean, Notre Dame is the 2 seed in this conference tournament. And Wake Forest and Miami, those teams are good, but they don't really seem like they're better than Duke at all. So
yeah, Duke is clearly the best team. That one is pretty clear. But for my sleeper, I actually did put Miami, just because
I was considering it.
They looked pretty good against their own conference. They like most of their games they beat who they're supposed to, and they beat UNC and they beat Duke. So I picked Miami, even though I really think they're the severely outside looking in. Basically, everyone's on the outside looking in.
Miami has traumatized me this year. Away, we blow a 20-point lead to them in the second half. Just this past Saturday.
Wait, you don't have Syracuse as your sleeper?
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Just speaking about Miami. This Saturday, we're up like 6 or 7 with like 45 seconds to go and we lose. But no, I'm not picking Syracuse as my sleeper. I'm picking Wake Forest because they have the ACC Player of the Year on their team that just got announced.
And the Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
They did lose to Syracuse by like 20, but still. I think that, this conference is pretty like decided, I guess. I mean, there's really like 1 or 2 teams that really have a shot.
Wide open with the exception of one team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that one team being so much better than the rest.
Exactly.
But I feel like
if somehow there's an upset, if somehow there's an upset, then I do think it's kind of anybody's
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, if
Or
Duke
anybody's-
loses somehow,
anybody's
it's
chip.
completely wide open.
And even Syracuse and Florida State could make a run if someone
No
got
chance.
upset.
Yeah.
But for my sleeper, and I mean, you guys probably could have picked it. I went with Virginia as my sleeper because they
What a
beat Duke.
shocker.
They beat Duke.
No
and then
bias at all.
They took them down to the wire in the second game. I mean, even without bias, this is a team that I think has underperformed this year. They have some bad losses. They do, but they have some good wins. They beat Duke. They beat Providence. They've beaten a lot of teams they're supposed to beat. They were, a buzzer beater from Florida State away from being much, much closer to making the NCAA tournament. And if they can get past UNC in the quarterfinals, I think it is. I'm not sure, but they have to go through UNC to get to the championship. If they can get past UNC, that's a really good win. And then I think they can play Duke close enough where they give themselves a shot at least to make the NCAA tournament. So I think there's any team that can make a run besides Duke and UNC, it would be Virginia
That's
in
fair.
the HTC.
I feel like
because
any team, actually, there's like 6 or 7 teams you can choose as a sleeper, and like it would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, another team that we haven't really talked about is UNC.
Yep.
I mean,
They
they
just
can
beat Duke.
score from all 3 levels. They have good guard play. Brady Manick has been really good for them in in his
best transfer
year
this
Yep.
year.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. And then Armando Baycott's a walking 20 and 10, it seems like.
It's
So
insane.
UNC is definitely a sleeper. So that wraps up our conference tournament predictions. Selection Sunday is next Sunday, so we'll see if there's any bid stealers or if everything shakes out like we think it will. But
Villanova should be a number 1 seed.
So should
I don't know
we.
about
Bring
that,
that out
but
there.
it's going to be a good March Madness.